Just follow the facts. 2 days ago, Ghislaine Maxwell's family and supporters write a letter that they post publicly demanding that Donald Trump pardon Ghislaine Maxwell or give her a new trial based on what Donald Trump's been posting and saying publicly, that the Epstein list files and investigation is a total hoax and sham created by former FBI Director James Comey, former President Obama, former President Biden, and Hillary Clinton. Now, 24 hours after Ghislaine Maxwell's family demands a retrial, what does Donald Trump do? He fires the lead prosecutor in the Ghislaine Maxwell sex trafficking case, where Ghislaine was convicted and sentenced to over 20 years in prison. It's also the same federal prosecutor out of the Southern District of New York who successfully prosecuted Jeffrey Epstein. Do you know what that prosecutor's name was from the Southern District of New York? Maureen Comey, the daughter of James Comey. Donald Trump is accusing James Comey, the former FBI director, of coming up with what now Donald Trump refers to as the Epstein hoax. Trump is saying that the entire sex trafficking ring and the list and all aspects of it is a hoax manufactured by Maureen Comey's father. Now, Fox, when they learned that Donald Trump fired Maureen Comey, this prosecutor, they barely knew how to report this because they were like, that's probably not helpful news in light of the fact that MAGA is all turning against Donald Trump for covering up the Epstein list and Epstein files. Here, watch this. Let's play it.
This is a Fox News alert. This has been a bad few-week stretch for Jim Comey's daughter. She was just fired by the DOJ. She's known for a couple things. She just lost the Diddy case, of course, and she was Jeffrey Epstein's prosecutor. So the daughter of the former FBI director, James Comey, she's a veteran federal prosecutor, worked on these cases. Maureen Comey is fired. So this is sending tongues a-wagging as the internet personalities and others, and this show has asked questions about what happened with the files, why did we overpromise and underdeliver? But the president has made his opinion on this very clear over the last couple of days. We're going to continue to cover this.
Now, this is all going, I think, exactly as I laid it out when Donald Trump first made that post over the weekend saying that the Epstein list and files was all a hoax. Remember, that followed Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, the #1 person at the Department of Justice, saying last week that the Epstein list didn't even exist and that they were closing their investigation. The list didn't exist and they were done even investigating further other co-conspirators. And so then Donald Trump over the weekend said, actually, it does exist, but it was created by Comey, Biden, Obama, and other people who are part of the deep state. So then yesterday, Democratic Senator Adam Schiff, who Donald Trump's also attacking with fraudulent charges about a 2009 mortgage his Gestapo's trying to frame Schiff with, Senator Schiff, who also was formerly a federal prosecutor before becoming a Congress member and then a senator, here's how he responded to the news that the lead prosecutor of Epstein and Ghislaine, who happens to also be James Comey's daughter, was just fired. Here, listen to this.
Tonight, we learned that the DOJ has fired Maureen Comey, who's a well-respected federal prosecutor who also happens to be, I like to phrase it that way, the daughter of former FBI Director James Comey from her job in the Southern District of New York. And she worked, and I started the show talking about this, in the U.S. Attorney's Office for nearly a decade, where, among other things, she handled high-profile sex trafficking prosecutions and was responsible for prosecuting both Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. What's your reaction to the reporting, and what do you make of it?
You know, none of this is good news for the Trump administration or the American people, for that matter, because either she was fired because she's James Comey's daughter, which would be totally inappropriate and a wrongful termination, or she was fired because she was prosecuting Epstein and his accomplices. And why would they fire her over that? And why would they fire her now? So none of this makes any sense, or none of it has a good or innocent explanation to it, which is why they're just continuing to founder over this. They created this conspiracy theory. They fed this conspiracy theory And now they have a MAGA base that has bought into it. And Donald Trump is at the point of calling his own supporters weaklings who bought into this bullshit that he was peddling, among others. So this is just widening and expanding upon all of the distrust of Donald Trump by his own base. And I think that's the ultimate impact.
So then Fox had to go into cover-up mode. So then Fox brought in other guests who would say things like, oh, I went to a rodeo and people told me they don't care about the Epstein list. And you know, MAGA and rodeos, that's who we need to be focused on, huh? Here, play this clip.
Keeps bubbling up, Selena. It's going to be a problem.
It is, but then it isn't. So I live in Western Pennsylvania, literally the heart of the Trump coalition. And I was very curious to see how people were, reacting to this. Was it the same as what I see on social media? I went to a rodeo. I mean, can't get more like centralized
down home. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. I couldn't find, I interviewed several dozen people. I couldn't find one person who was, completely outraged at all. I mean, yes, people want to know if there's a there, but it's not driving what's important to them.
Then they bring on this lawyer, John Yoo, and he's like, all I know is that people really care about the auto pen scandal, former President Biden, way more than they care about this Epstein list deal. Of course, the auto pen scandal. What are you even talking about? All former presidents use auto pens. Donald Trump uses an auto pen. What is shocking about that? Here, play this clip.
If you care about the Constitution and the rule of law, Trump is right. The auto pen is way more serious than Jeffrey Epstein, because you could have a series of aides here who seized the power of the presidency and used it for their own purposes. You can't have an aide exercising the constitutional power of pardon or the decision not to prosecute people. And so they could have committed forgery. They could have committed fraud. I expect the Justice Department has already opened an investigation and they just don't want to say.
Now, you'll also recall yesterday that Donald Trump was asked about whether he intended to hire a special prosecutor to now investigate what happened to the Epstein list, or if he's claiming that it's one big hoax, should a special prosecutor look into that? Here was Donald Trump's statement. He basically ran away and said, I don't know. I have nothing to do with this. I don't even know what we're talking about. I have nothing to do with it. Here, watch this.
President Trump, would you consider appointing a special counsel to investigate the Jeffrey Epstein investigation?
I have nothing to do with it.
Now, I think it's helpful when we cover these stories to just remind you that when Donald Trump was running the first time, he made Epstein one of the biggest aspects of his campaign. I'll just show you some clips of him basically saying, hey, Bill Clinton, nice guy, but I think he went to the island, or I think bad stories are going to happen about the Clintons. He was weaponizing the Epstein list and the Epstein criminal investigation in order to hurt his political enemies, when ultimately Donald Trump had a very close relationship with Epstein. Here, play this clip.
Bill Clinton. Nice guy. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein.
You raised the question of Jeffrey Epstein in your remarks about in the Q&A.
Well, I think he's got a problem. I mean,
what do you think the problem will be?
I don't know, but that island was really a cesspool. There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew. He'll tell you about it. The island was an absolute cesspool.
So here is Donald Trump partying with Epstein at Mar-a-Lago, and I want to talk about that in a moment as well. Let's play it. Now, that video of Donald Trump partying with Jeffrey Epstein is more than just a one-off event, right? Mar-a-Lago, and I've reported on this before, it was used as one of the locations where Epstein would find underage girls to sex traffic. So, Ben, you got to be careful with what you say. No, that's a undisputed fact. Virginia Giuffre, who was an underage girl, 17 years old, was homeless. She got a job at Mar-a-Lago as a, quote, towel girl working at the spa. In walks Ghislaine Maxwell, who lived with Epstein right down the block. They go in to the spa Ghislaine Maxwell recruits Virginia Giuffre. Hey, I've got a very wealthy friend. I see you're a towel girl at Mar-a-Lago. You want to meet my friend? His name is Jeffrey Epstein. She brings Giuffre to Epstein, and Epstein starts to sex traffic her. That was the MO. Epstein would look for destitute, underage girls, bring them into his lifestyle, and then sex traffic them. That's what happened. And so just so you can hear for yourself, here is Virginia Giuffre talking about what went down at Mar-a-Lago. Let's play it.
Virginia Roberts was working in the spa at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach when British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell introduced her to multimillionaire Jeffrey Epstein.
The training started immediately. I mean, it was everything down to how to give a blowjob, how to be quiet, be subservient, give Jeffrey what he wants. A lot of this training came from Ghislaine herself. And being a woman, it kind of surprises you that a woman could actually let stuff like that happen, but not only let it happen, but to groom you into doing it. And then there's Jeffrey who's telling you, I want it this way. No, go slower and don't do that and do this.
And she's repeated this story multiple times. Let's play it.
I was recruited at a very young age from Mar-a-Lago and entrapped in a world that I didn't understand, and I've been fighting that very world to this day, and I won't stop fighting. I will never be silenced until these people are brought to justice.
Now, tragically, Virginia Giuffre recently died by suicide in Australia, and our heart goes out to her family. Yesterday, Donald Trump called in. I guess he wasn't happy with the Fox coverage, so he calls into another TV show, another far right-wing propaganda network. And so he then starts to say, after he fires the top prosecutor on the Ghislaine Maxwell Jeffrey Epstein case, so he now directs the FBI to look into what he's calling the Epstein hoax. I want my FBI to look into the hoax. Play this clip.
What are the things that are most important that you would like to see the FBI get to the bottom of?
I think they could look at all of it. It's all the same scam. They could look at this Jeffrey Epstein hoax also, because that's the same stuff. That's all put out by Democrats.
Yeah.
And, some of the naive Republicans fall right into line like they always do. They just don't have the sustainability. They don't have they don't have that stick to it like glue. The Democrats, they have bad policy. They have bad candidates. They have bad everything. But they stick together. The Republicans don't do that. But they ought to look into the Jeffrey Epstein hoax, too, because that's another hoax that's frankly put out by the pushing the Republicans and put out by the Democrats.
No, they definitely set the Republicans up. One big prosecutor look at it all. Would that make you feel good, you think?
Well, I think it's in the case of Epstein, they've already looked at it, and they are looking at it, and I think all they have to do is put out anything credible. But, that was run by the Biden administration for 4 years. I can imagine what they put into files, just like they did with the others. I mean, the Steele dossier was a total fake.
Right.
It took 2 years to figure that out for the people. And all of the things that you mentioned were fake. Yep. So I would imagine if they were run by Chris Wray and they were run by Comey, and because it was actually even before that administration, they've been running these files. And so much of the things that we found were fake with me.
Let me tell you something real, and I think you know this. Coffee isn't just a drink in my house. It's how I function. It's everything. And once I tried Trade, I realized what I was missing out on. Trade is the #1 US coffee destination, and now I get coffee that's roasted to order and shipped straight from over 50 of the country's top roasters. You smell the difference the second you open the bag. I took their quiz. It's like a minute, and they matched me with a coffee that blew me away. Smooth, bold, insanely fresh, and if it's not perfect the first time, Trade will replace it for free until they nail it. But honestly, they nailed it right away. Trade's experts have taste tested thousands of coffees to curate over 450 amazing roasts. Whether you're new to coffee or know your favorites, they'll handpick the perfect coffee for you. I've been introduced to roasters I'd never find on my own, and it's just next level. I have super high standards, and I've never been let down. Plus, Trade's prices are on par with grocery store brands, but the quality blows it away. Plus, you're supporting local roasters, so it's a win-win. Like just the other day, I got a bag of Ethiopian coffee from a roaster called Drink Coffee Do Stuff. They're a roaster based in Lake Tahoe. It's bright, fruity, silky, tastes great. Right now, Trade is exclusively offering our listeners 50% off your 1-month trial at drinktrade.com/Meidas. That's drinktrade, TRADE.com/Meidas. drinktrade.com/Meidas.
And so do you see now how Donald Trump has given Ghislaine Maxwell the golden ticket? He's fired the main prosecutor out of SDNY, who would clearly be the person to block a request for a retrial by Ghislaine Maxwell. So they removed her. They'll probably pick a loyalist to Donald Trump. This was right after Ghislaine Maxwell's family posts the letter saying they want a retrial or a pardon after Donald Trump says that it's all a hoax, where Ghislaine Maxwell's going to say, hey, the president who says he's seen the files says it's all one gigantic hoax. So I should be granted a new trial with all of this new evidence that I didn't know about. Apparently, it's all a hoax. Not only that, but Donald Trump just directed his FBI director to investigate the hoax, by the way. And Ghislaine Maxwell will say, and also the lead, ready for this? The lead prosecutor of my case, her father was the one who created the hoax, according to the President of the United States. And the prosecutor did not disclose to the judge that her father created the hoax. That's what she's going to argue. And then a judge can say, well, that's crazy. The President of the United States is the one saying that right now. And now Donald Trump may be ultimately allowing her to get a retrial and further covering up the sex trafficking ring. Do you see what he's doing? Do you see how that all fits into place? And then yesterday when he was with the Prime Minister of Bahrain, here he says it again. It's a hoax started by Democrats. Here, play this clip.
Mr. President, I know you want to move past all this intrigue over the Epstein files, but I do want to ask you to clarify something you said this morning. You said this was all a hoax. Has your Attorney General told you this was a hoax? What evidence have you seen of that?
No, it's not the Attorney General. No, I know it's a hoax. It's started by Democrats. It's been run by the Democrats for 4 years. You had Christopher Wray and these characters and Comey before him. And it's a bad group. It started, actually, look at the Steele dossier that turned out to be a total hoax. The 51 agents, the intelligence, so-called intelligence agents, it was a hoax. It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats. And some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net. And so they try and do the Democrats' work. The Democrats are good for nothing other than these hoaxes. They're bad for policy. They're bad for picking candidates that can get elected. Like in New York, we have a communist running. He may get elected too, actually, but he'll destroy the city.
And then he says that if you are a supporter of his and you're not calling it a hoax anymore, then you are disowned by him. And they use that word, disowned. Here, play this clip.
In your Truth Social this morning, you mentioned past supporters when you were talking about the Epstein issue. Does that mean that you're effectively disowning any supporters who are now calling?
I lost a lot of faith in certain people. Yeah, I lost. Because they got duped by the Democrats. The Democrats are good for nothing. They've done a terrible job. They almost destroyed our country.
Now, I want to show you two other items as well. Author Michael Wolff, who's appeared several times on the MeidasTouch network, he was going to be Epstein's biographer, potentially. They never ended up doing that deal. Wolff is also Trump's biographer. He's written many books on Trump. Wolff says that Jeffrey Epstein showed him photos of topless girls sitting on Donald Trump's lap by Epstein's pool. Here, play this clip.
And I've said before that Epstein used to bring out this set of pictures. There were about a dozen snapshots. And among them, there are at least 3 that I remember, 2 of topless girls, sitting in Trump's lap around Epstein's swimming pool. And then one with, a stain on the front of Trump's pants with 3 or 4 girls laughing and pointing at it. So I have seen those pictures.
So what's your best guess as to where they are?
Well, I'm my best guess is that Epstein kept them in the safe. A safe was emptied out by the FBI. Where are those pictures?
Now, here's another audio of Maria Farmer, one of Epstein's victims, who came forward very early on, before a lot of the other investigations even took place. And she speaks out about an incident where she was going to Epstein's office building. Donald Trump was in the office building, she says, and Epstein tells Trump, that one's not for you. Yours is in the other room. Here's what she says. Here, play this clip.
The time that is most memorable to me is the time when he hit on me. Because I was in the office. It was one of the first times I started working for Donald Trump's a sleazebag. Okay.
Yes.
It was when I started working for Epstein, and it was 9 o'clock at night.
Right.
And Jeffrey Epstein's office was totally empty. And I told the New York Times this, but of course they don't tell the whole thing, right? Even though Mike Baker is amazing, but they would not allow him to tell the truth. Right. So basically, I go into this office. It's 9 o'clock at night, and I sit down. And a few minutes later, and I'm wearing running clothes. Okay, so it was really weird. It's 9 o'clock at night, and I'm wearing running clothes because I didn't have money, so I had to jog up there.
Right.
And so I've just struggled, for so long. So I'm like up there in the office, seated, and I've got my my running clothes on, so my legs are showing. And in walks this man that when I reported him to the FBI, said that game show host Donald Trump, because I thought he was a game show host.
Yeah.
Because he's so cheesy, But anyway, so I said, I said hello to him. He walks in, and I just kind of acknowledged him like a head nod or something.
Yeah.
And he immediately starts. He's standing across the room from me, and I'm seated, and he's like, "Oh, Maria." No, he didn't. Sorry, I was just looking at something. He's standing across the room, and he's looking at me, and I'm like, "Oh, gross." This guy's so gross. Anyway, he's just glaring at my legs, like yum. I told my sister, I felt like I was his dinner or his lunch.
Yeah.
The way he was looking at me. So Epstein comes in. And by the way, I did not look good. I was like, I'm not exceptionally beautiful or anything like that. These are just gross people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm just like a normal person who went on a run, and I'm seated there. So he assumed I was there for him. And this is how I know. Epstein walks up to him and goes, no, she's not here for you. And they were smirking, and Epstein whispered something. He goes, go in there. And so Trump at 9 o'clock at night goes in the other room. If there's someone in there for him.
Right.
I don't know who, but Epstein said, no, she's not here for you.
Right.
What is this?
Yeah.
That's the only friend I think she had. And Joan Rivers, they were just more like buddies.
Right.
But this Ivana Trump was like her best friend.
And with
Ivana.
Yeah, with Ivana, then, I described that, she'd be there.
That was creepy. So at the time, Ivana had she was doing QVC, selling jewelry, right? Online. On TV. She was like a QVC queen. Donald Trump. And Donald Trump was always hanging out with Epstein, and Ivana was always hanging out with Ghislaine.
Right.
And Ivana would say, we're going to go pick up Ivana, or Ivana's going to come. And we'd ride in the car with her. And I remember one occasion where Ghislaine's like, I have to get out right now. And she went and got a number from a child, and I saw in a uniform.
Yeah. And
everybody knew what they were doing. Everybody who surrounded them knew exactly what they were doing.
And but how often? Did you go for rides often with her and Ivana? Or,
yes.
And would she pick up girls all the time?
Yes. She didn't bring them in the car. She would get their phone numbers.
Right.
But she would drive by schools.
Right. So
as they got out.
So would she? Yeah. And what's Ivana doing at this point? What are
sitting in the car. And I'll never forget, because one day I was really weirded out by what had happened. I was really weirded out. So So I'm sorry, my phone's beeping in. Just give it a second. But anyway, I've got to go in a second. But I just wanted to tell you, I was weirded out when they were driving around with this. So Ghislaine, to shut me up, gave me one of those cheap bracelets Ivana was selling on QVC and said, Ivana wants you to have this. And I threw it in the garbage.
Now, another federal prosecutor out of New York, Dan Goldman, one of the top federal prosecutors over there, who investigated crimes like this. Here's what he had to say yesterday in the House of Representatives. Let's play it.
What's going on with the Epstein files? Donald Trump promised to release them. Pam Bondi said she had the files on her desk and that she was going to release them in the name of transparency. Kash Patel has spent years railing against the FBI to release the files. Many of my Republican colleagues were banging on the table to release the Epstein files. But now, all of a sudden, after a months-long review, Bondi and Patel say nothing to see here, no evidence that any American would want to see about accomplices, co-conspirators, or other people involved. Yesterday, the Republicans voted against releasing the files. So what's changed? Well, we all know Donald Trump has had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. He flew on his plane, he hung out at parties, spoke highly of him. And now there are many people saying that Donald Trump is included in the Epstein files. In fact, there are reporters who say that there are videos of him with topless women. Elon Musk even confirmed that Trump is blocking the release of these files because he's in them. Pam Bondi says there's nothing there, but Donald Trump even acknowledges that there is evidence there. It's just not credible. It's made up. This is a True Social post from 9:43 this morning. It is an admission that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files, and the American people deserve to know whether he is or not.
So I just wanted to share with you that sequence, right, of events, so you understand the timeline, right? I mean, if you want to just go back to the prior week, let's just do the timeline one more time quickly. The Justice Department issues a memorandum unsigned. No one actually signs it, but it says Justice Department, FBI, saying the Epstein list doesn't exist. That that it doesn't exist, that there are no files, and that they're shutting down all investigations. The weekend comes, and then Donald Trump says it's actually a Democrat hoax. Then this week, Donald Trump says that it's Comey and Obama and Biden who manufactured the Epstein list and the Epstein files, and that's what really happened. Then you had the family of Ghislaine Maxwell say, well, she should get a retrial or a pardon. And then Donald Trump fires the lead prosecutor of her case. And I guess one other fact to bring in is that Epstein's lawyer, who was also Trump's lawyer, Alan Dershowitz, he's also now calling for a pardon of Ghislaine Maxwell. And Dershowitz just wrote a letter of recommendation for Emile Beauvais to be on the Third Circuit Court of Appeals to become an appeals judge. Trump now wants to install his own criminal defense lawyer. Emile Beauvais was Trump's criminal defense lawyer in the case where Trump was convicted on 34 felony counts. Trump wants Beauvais to now be the lawyer to be the Court of Appeals judge, and Dershowitz is the one recommending Emile Beauvais to get that position, as Dershowitz is also saying to Donald Trump to give Ghislaine Maxwell a pardon. See how this all fits together? Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe and let's get to 6 million subscribers. Laying out the facts for you.
Love this video? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch and help us blow past 1 million followers.